Alright. Welcome back. Pop out the chat. Okay, so there's an idea I had, which would be to make like a mega... The Forto. There's an idea I've had to basically make a tic-tac-toe game, but if you've ever heard of Super Tic-Tac-Toe, basically, I can just show you guys. Super Tic-Tac-Toe is when you have your stand. Oh, okay. Blinding white. Why not? Super Tic-Tac-Toe is when you have your standard tic-tac-toe board, which I can actually draw good. And then inside of every square you have another tic-tac-toe board. And I'm gonna copy this just to save some time. Okay, let me copy a smaller region here. So I'm just gonna move these. Yeah, Super Tic-Tac-Toe is actually quite hard and fun. But basically what my idea was, so the way you play Super Tic-Tac-Toe is player 1 goes first, and let me just, zoop. The way you play Super Tic-Tac-Toe is player 1 goes first, and he can choose any of these small squares. So like, for example, if he goes here, wherever he went in this small grid, he has to go in the game that's in that grid in the parent grid. So he went in this center square in this game. Now now the next player has to go in any of these squares in the center game here. So like I'll go here. I'll go here, for example. So now we have to play in this grid right here. So like here. So I'll go here, for example, and then like here, here, and you can kind of see how this plays. So that's Super Tic-Tac-Toe. So my idea was basically I would do that, but on steroids, using the power of computers. So, for example, you have your giant grid, and in this giant grid, you have more grids, just like standard tic-tac-toe. And I won't bother drawing them all this time, just this center. But then inside this grid, you'd have yet another grid. And figuring out how this would actually work is actually a lot more challenging than you would think. Because, like, okay, let me just draw out one more grid here. Like, so you could start, first you'd have to decide how to choose a game, like one of these smaller games, because it's not one level up. So what I was thinking is like you just choose any square and it just zooms in until the last level. And so now you play this normally, and so like the player chooses, so now they have to go in here somewhere. So like they'll go here, for example. So now player X also has to go in this game, and they go here. So like whatever's in here, if I draw a new grid, now player X will like, now player O will go here, and you know. So, but then when this square is won by someone, you would have to decide, no, wait, oops. So like you would play this normally, and then when this square is 1 somehow, you would have to decide like, hey, how are you going to continue now? So that's the challenge I was thinking of. The algorithm thinking is actually a lot more complicated than I expected. So I guess I will get started. And actually the way this is going to work is I'm going to mkdir the project. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cp from back over here. I'm going to mkdir crates cargo, because I'm also wanting this to be multiplayer. So this is the cargo toml file. And so if I go into crates, cargo new client --vcs none. So version control system none. And then here inside of client, I'm gonna cargo add flume, which is a faster thing to MPSC. I'm gonna add mycrate fspp, which makes file system operations much easier to do. I'm gonna add piglog, which is another one of my crates. I'll add bevy, toml, ron, what else? Hash brown, which is a faster hash map implementation. I'll run that. So I added toml and ron. So cargo add serde with the derive feature. Cargo add clap with the derive feature. I'll also add the bevy editor, bevy editor please. Cargo.toml looks good. I'm gonna hx the default, use bevy prelude, let mute app equals app new, app run, app.add plugins default plugins.set window plugin like this, default primary window some, meaning there is a window. The other option would be none. I'm gonna add window default, and the title, I believe the title is of type string, so I'll do string from Megato. Oh, what the heck? Megato? If you guys come up with a better name for this, please let me know. I could also use a constant, so I could use the format macro. So I could do name, for example. So I could go up to here and I could be use common consts, something like that, and then I can create the common crate, cargo new lib, oh right, common lib, common lib cargo.toml. I'll rename this to common in here. Lib, I'll remove this default stuff, and I'll do pub mod consts, pub const name will be of type str, and it will be megato. Looks good. And now I gotta go into crates client, cargo toml, delete that, and then I also want to add common path common lib. I also need to add a spawn camera system. Spawn camera system, because Bevy uses an entity component system approach, and I will do cmds commands, I think. Actually, I think it might be like that in this case. And then I also want to do app.add systems startup spawn camera system. And I want to do cmds spawn camera camera 3D bundle. Transform. How about transform from XYZ 0.0, 5.0 dot looking at vec3y, just to say okay, vec3 new 0.0.0.0.0.0 and the up direction is vec3y. And that will spawn the camera. I also want to change the window color, so app.insert resource clear color RGB color RGB I'll change this to 0.25. Let's see how this looks. And I'll also spin up Zalige so then I can there we go. So now I can create a new tab, and I can run this in bash. And this can be in crates client. This will be here, and I can cargo run -fbdl Oh, also, I got to enable BDL as bevy dynamic linking. Oh, I got to do this in client. Features. Features, BDL, bevy dynamic linking. Just to make linking on Linux a little bit faster. Windows does not support it. Mac OS does. But okay, now I'm building the project. I'm also... Okay. Wow. Who's watching? Is anyone actually watching? An interest? I'm also, while that's compiling, gonna... Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Alright. I'm gonna mod CLI. I'm gonna use clap parser. I'm gonna do pub struct CLI derive parser pub debug bool enable debug log. I'm gonna do, oh, it compiled. Clap short long. And then I'm gonna do another one. Clap. Cool. Alright, I'm glad some people are watching. Editor mode. Pub pub editor. Ooh. Thank you. I'm glad you like my profile picture, unknown blue guy 6. I can tell you like it just with your username. Alright, let's all kick me. No, just kidding. Let args equal CLI dot parse. And I'm going to use clap parser here. And if args yeah, Godot is interesting, but for me, and a lot of you are going to think this is weird, but I've actually found it way harder to wrap my head around GUI engines like Godot. They're just intimidating, whereas like pure code just makes sense. Also, pure code just feels way more nerdy and cool. I'm gonna add piglog. I think I added piglog. Ooh. Cargo toml. Yep, piglog. I'm going to use the piglog prelude. For those of you who don't know, I actually have crates on crates.io. /users oglo12. I have this program I made, which is what you see when I open a terminal. These shebangs are actually .png files that get converted into ASCII when I open the terminal. I also have this crate called CLI input, which is basically a crate for allowing the user to enter input in the terminal. So like it can ask, what is your name? What is your password? Stuff like that. Surprisingly, Rust does not have that by default. And then I have FSPP, which Rust, if you try and like open files and create folders and stuff with just pure Rust, it's a horrible experience. So I made this crate called FSPP that makes it a lot easier. Like it actually feels amazing to use, and it supports even like moving files into folders with the same function, which surprisingly Rust does not support. And then I have NetGet, which is a crate for downloading files from the internet, which actually I created netget-cli, which is a program that basically uses NetGet to download files. So for example, I can download my Hyperland update script, for example, with netget -cli. So here, I'll netget-cli and then the URL. If I run netget without any arguments, you'll see it errors out. This is the clap framework in the process. So I can do something like this. It's basically an alternative to wget. Hyperland rice raw main manage update.sh. So now it's done downloading, and if I cat update.sh, yep, this is my Hyperland updating script. So I can remove that now. Another crate, so here's netget CLI. Netwire, I accidentally registered this. I wish they'll take it down. Noxel is a scripting programming language I'm working on. Piglog is this log crate that adds like fancier versions of println basically. So like here's a demo. And then I have piglog netget config. This just allows the netget progress bar to look like it belongs with piglog. And then polymath is a library that adds things like a matrix data type, because I'm also wanting to make AI in Rust, and that uses a lot of matrices / tensors. So polymath is my library for adding algebraic types, algebra types like that, the matrix data type. So yeah. Piglog prelude. If this is true, then piglog config enable debug log. Wait, is this? It is using the CPU because it's, well, if it was using the GPU, that'd be stupid because not all machines have a GPU. So I'm leaving it up to the user to run it on the GPU if they really want to. But like here, I can actually demonstrate. So Rust has a really nice trait system that allows it to do things like, for example, I can add like complete integration into my data types, which is super cool. So I don't think I have polymath in here. So let me add polymath. Oh, I can remove all this. This is just some testing code. Okay, so main, and I will import the prelude. So use polymath prelude all. And what I can do is create a matrix. So I'll create a matrix of type matrix F64. And I can create it. So there are a few ways I can create it. I can create it from a vector with a shape specified. I can create it from a 2D vector where the shape is implied. I can create it, then set the elements later. So I'll do from 2D vec, let's say. And I also want to unwrap. So I will do a matrix that has, let's say, 3 rows and 2 columns. So 4.1, 5.2. So that's that, and then 5.4, 7.9, and one more, 1.4, 4.3. Sure, why not? Though then I can't really see the bar information. I'll move it there. Oh, right. Also, these need to be of type vec. I will probably change this later. So there's this, so now I have a new matrix, and I can also print it out. So we should see a matrix that is two columns and 3 rows. Cargo run. And this will compile all the other crap dependencies I have in my cargo toml and my testing project. But yeah, here's the matrix right here. And I printed it with pretty output, so it's formatted. And I actually added like my own formatter, since under the hood, a matrix is really just a one-dimensional array that then I use linearizing and delinearizing functions to convert the positional coordinates. So that was fun. I also have support for multiplying and adding and subtracting and stuff. So I can create a new matrix. Why do you hate the compile thing? It's a compiled language. I hate interpreted languages because, sure, they don't have compile. Like, they don't compile, but they are very slow. So what is going on with... Did I do something with my terminal? Oh, I have caps lock on. 5.4, 7.9. Alright, so now I have a matrix with 2 rows and 3 columns, so I will also print this out, and I will print it on a new line. Oh, yeah, first compile time can take a while, but honestly it doesn't really matter. The reason it takes so long is because Rust does all like the things. It basically makes sure you're safe no matter what. Like, people say compiled languages can be dangerous, but Rust is arguably safer than Python is. That's why I love it so much. So here are my 2 matrices, and I can multiply them. Which, adding and dividing, it's as simple as just make sure they're the same shape and add all the elements, or subtract the elements. When I say divide, I actually mean subtract. Dividing a matrix is actually very hard. Yeah. But here, I'll show you. I figured out how to make it so I can multiply them, which is not as straightforward. Here, let me multiply. So this is, oh, looks like a floating point error. Very cool. Python is okay. One thing I do not miss from Python is the fact that, like with Rust, if I make code and it compiles, I can be fairly certain that it's good code and it won't crash. Whereas with Python, since it reads it line by line, I could make a syntactual error and not know until that syntax is actually read. So it just crashes mid-runtime, which is something I do not miss. And what I'm going to do so I don't get floating point errors is I'm going to just change this to I32 matrices. So I'll delete these. Let me record a helix macro. There we go. Alright, so now I have these I32 matrices. Let me run this again. There we go. So yeah, this is multiplying matrices. Alright, back to the game. Debug log debug log enabled. Alright, so now if I run, now that I have clap, if I run, oh, right, I need to, with the Bevy dynamic linking feature. So if I run the program, it should run as normal, which it does. But if I add -h, clap generates some context for me. Zero dev, not yet, at least. The only thing I have implemented so far is matrices, but I am planning on adding something like that in the future. I'll probably add tensors, which a tensor is basically, so you can think of a matrix as basically a two-dimensional array. A tensor is an n-dimensional array. So like an array could be a tensor, but it might not be a matrix. A matrix is both an array, a matrix is also an array and a tensor. And a tensor is its own thing. So like a one-dimensional array, a two-dimensional array, a three-dimensional array, a four-dimensional array. They're all tensors. That's why, like, when looking up how to make AI, you'll see conversations between, like, hey, I'm making an AI. Should I use tensors or matrices? So that's what a tensor is. So yeah, I'll probably add a tensor data type with a shape, which is the dimensionality, whatever you want to call it, dimensionality. I am 14. Actually, I'm going to turn 15 on the 7th, so in about a week. 15. And my dad actually got me an N64 for my birthday. Like an actual N64, which is super cool. Yeah, N64 is super cool. Can't wait to get my hands on that. Dude, you just have to start early. Like, I got my computer at 10 years old. And from there, the first 2 years were spent gaming. And then the last 2 years I've had a computer, almost 3 years, I've been using Linux and programming and stuff. Yeah, most kids my age just play video games, which is a big waste. I do play video games sometimes, occasionally, but programming is just so much fun, dude. Like, app.add plugins editor plugin, and I need to import this, so use Bevy editor please editor plugin. Yeah, if a friend wants to play a game, I often will play. Recently I've gotten back into Minecraft, but because Minecraft is one of my childhood games, but I've actually, like, I really don't play the modern versions of Minecraft. I actually play a modded version of beta 1.7.3 called Reindev. One-year-old. I'm actually homeschooled, so I don't actually know what grade I'm in. I legitimately completely forgot. Homeschool is nice. Yeah. The structure is loose, so I can spend... so, like, I can do the mandatory stuff, so, like, math, social studies, language arts, you know. But then I can just focus on programming. It's really nice. And it's definitely really nice because the private school I went to before homeschooling wouldn't allow anything related to computers. Like, I couldn't even talk to my friends about booting up a computer without getting in trouble. So, homeschooling has been very nice. But okay, so I have this help menu. Let me see if I enable editor mode. That enables Bevy editor. Yay. Yeah. It was not fun being barred from talking about what I really like to do, so yeah. Let's see, I need to filter out WGPU nonsense. Simplay. SR's Simplay crates client src main filter. It's in the log plugin, so I'm gonna just copy this. I'm gonna go back to here, and I'm gonna set. I live in Austin, Texas. So yeah, you were correct with the South. Yep. My parents do not have a background in programming at all. In fact, my mom is as technical as a doorknob. My dad is an iPhone user. My stepmom is a Apple fanboy who uses Mac OS. Like, the thing that got me into programming is I just wanted to create my own video game. Also, I thought it was really interesting being able to do whatever you want when you boot up the computer. So, I feel super powerful knowing programming, basically. I feel bad for people who just went their whole life without programming. Yeah. So yeah, first I wanted to create a video game, and then like I started using Linux because I was like, holy shit, Windows is horrible. So yeah. And actually, the way I got into Linux is I was playing Minecraft and I was downloading a data pack or something, and it was in a .zip file form. And on Mediafire actually tells you what operating systems support the file type, and it said Windows, Mac, Linux. And I was just thinking to myself, hey, what's Linux? So I installed Ubuntu in a virtual machine, and eventually I just ended up dual booting Windows and Linux. And after a while, I was like, hey, I'm actually not booting into Windows ever. Like, the only time I'm actually booting into Windows is to use Paint.net, and even then, I'm learning GIMP. So eventually, I just wiped the entire machine and installed Linux. And I've never looked back. I've never needed Windows ever again. Yeah, it's a funny origin story, but you know, we all have to have our beginnings. And now I'm a free open source software advocate, and it's really fun. Yeah. Bevy log level. Guys, I'm not gonna stop the stream, but I will have to go downstairs to eat some dinner soon. So I will leave and come back. Cool. What's your origin story? Okay. Yeah, tell us. Yep, take your time. Okay, so now I have bevy log level error. Info. Cool. And does it work with just B? It does. Alright, if you guys are okay with just hanging out here for a little bit, I'm gonna go downstairs and eat a few slices of pizza. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. How can anyone deduce the distro that I am using? EndeavorOS. What does deduce mean? Meaning of deduce. To reach a conclusion by to infer from a general yo. Okay, I don't really understand. Just to come to a conclusion about, like, why I'm using it. The reason I'm using EndeavorOS is it's basically Arch Linux, but with a few extra utilities installed that makes managing the system easier, and it also comes with the Calamares installer, which I just like. So, really, it's just, like, it patches things, so I don't have to do it manually. It's just a nicer installation experience. And, like, I don't encounter weird issues in the middle of use like I did on Arch. So, that's why I use EndeavorOS. Okay, I'm gonna go back to programming. No, I do the regular install, but I don't select a desktop environment. So then I install SDDM and Hyperland myself, and I also install like my Arch Linux repository, and I install distr. Then I just download my distr configuration to my config directory, and I do distr gen commit setup and then distr gen current build, and it will build my system again. So I can basically get the exact same system with little to no user input. I am programming so I explained it in the beginning of the stream. Basically, like, if you know what super tic-tac-toe is, basically a tic-tac-toe, but every single square is another tic-tac-toe grid, and there's, like, rules about how to move and stuff. I'm basically creating a computer version of that. So now I'm trying to decide, how do I want to... let me first, like, spawn in a cube. Spawn random shit. And this will take mut commands. Yeah, it's actually, put your whole lore. Nice. 5D chess, I don't know how to play 5D chess, let alone program it. But four-dimensional, super tic-tac-toe sounds very interesting, but it can go n-dimensionally, and it's multiplayer. That just sounds so cool. So, I want to try and program that. CMDS spawn PBR bundle. I'm actually using Mint themes, so themes from Linux Mint. And I'm using the Papyrus icon theme. So I'm using, can open up NWG look. So I'm using Mint Wide Dark Teal with JetBrains Mono as my font. And then icon theme, Papyrus Dark. My mouse cursor is Grovebox Light, so simple Grovebox Light, and then, yeah. And get this, I actually added a theme changer to my Hyperland Rice. So, like, this is the default theme, and, like, these are all the themes, but... And I added sections, so, like, for example, you can list out only the built-in themes that are in the Rice, and then you can actually add custom themes yourself without editing the Rice source. So, like, you don't have to fork the Rice to add a custom theme. So this is a custom theme I made called Grovebox Bubbles. Do you do multiple? I don't have multiple monitors, no. another theme. I also have solarized, which, call me crazy, but solarized is a very based theme. I love it. But I'm going to change it because I know a lot of you don't like it. So, spawn random Shiza. PBR bundle. My mom actually got me a refurbished monitor for my birthday, which is cool. Yes, very based. Well, what do you mean by quote unquote based? Solarized is officially one of my favorite color schemes. So, if you have any problem with that, take it up with my hand. Oh, I'm not using my mouse, but yeah, I know what you mean. Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. I can't do German. I can't pronounce it very well. Guten Nacht. For me, at least. Ja... Ja говорю по-русски. I don't want to start seeing Russian in my chat. I'm gonna ignore any Russian in the chat just because this is an English stream, so... Oh, wait, what am I doing? My cousin speaks German, so I secretly learned German. Yeah, my mom is from Mariupol, Ukraine, so I'm learning Russian just because half of my family frickin' speaks Russian and no English, so, you know, Russian kind of important. Right, I also need to meshes.add. So I need to do moot meshes, I believe resmoot, a standard mesh, I think. No, what is it? I do not have Simple creates client src chunk manager PBR meshes.add meshes assets mesh. You want to know... yes, it is Zillige. You want to know my learning strategy. Well, good question. So, I found that the best way to learn something, for me at least, is learn the absolute fundamentals. Like, for example, let's take Rust, for example. Learn how to make variables, how to make functions, how to print to the terminal. You know, that kind of fundamental stuff. And then learn the less obvious stuff. That's the stuff you have to ask people, like, hey, is there something I should know that's good practice in Rust? Like, for example, instead of, if I pull up Helix, I do set language Rust, instead of doing something like let state equals 1, instead of doing something gross like this is, I guess, fine in some languages, but in Rust, this is horrible. So like print like you don't want to do this. Instead, you want to use enums. So enums state. So like 1, 2, and you can say let state equals state 1, for example, and then you can match the state. And the match statement is useful because it forces you to take into account every single state. So like, for example, state 1, I can do print, state 2, and so I can handle stuff here. So like states, so enum, structs, macros, that's the less obvious stuff, and then just learn as you go. So basically, you will forget information unless you actually need it. So, for example, I learned algebra, then immediately forgot it, and now I'm learning algebra again, but I'm remembering it because I actually need it to make the Polymath Rust library. Yeah, Helix is an amazing text editor. So enums are basically switch cases. No, enums are states. So basically compiler enforced states, I guess. I don't know. And they're super useful, and they can also actually hold subtypes. So like, for example, one way I'm thinking of implementing them is in Rust match an expression instead of a statement, making it more useful than the switch. Yeah, the switch statement in C is absolute shit compared to the match statement in Rust. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. Rust has amazing statements for just case handling and stuff. Also, Rust has enums that you're gonna miss if you go to any other language. Like, check this out. Enum so I was thinking of implementing the tic-tac-toe board, something like this. So you have the board enum, and I would have something like this. So if it's a board that actually has playing pieces in it, because eventually it's going to stop to where you can put playing pieces in it, but it could also be a board with another board in it. So I could do something like this, a single, and this will hold a subtype of a hash map, for example, and this hash map will have a two-dimensional coordinate within U8. And this will hold like which player that piece belongs to. So I could do something like this. So like this would be a regular tic-tac-toe board right here. But I could also do something where embedded, for example, and this will hold a box board. And just ignore this box part. This is a Rust thing. This is like to prevent memory leaks. But so enums can do stuff like this, and it's actually super cool. Enums are not really a list. Well, I guess you could call them a list. It's basically a state. But like here, then when I want to make a new variable of type board, I can do something like this. So if I wanted to do single, I do hash map new, something like this. If I wanted to create a board with another board inside of it, I could do embedded, and I could actually put this, I could name this board 2 and put board inside of a box and put that in here. So Rust enums are very cool. And there's other crates, like for example, there's a crate called strum, which adds a strum macro, which literally allows you to iterate through all the states of the macro. which you can do some crazy stuff with. So here's mesh, material, materials.add, standard material. So I'll add another pointer. Well, not a, what, is this a pointer? Yeah, Rust can be kind of a complicated language at times, but trust me, you get used to it pretty quickly, to be honest. Really the hard part, I've heard people say, is the borrow checker, but honestly, the borrow checker is pretty easy to understand, at least for me. Basically, I can explain it with water. If you create a variable, you create a new water source, essentially. But if you put that variable in a function, here, I can open up GIMP. So I might make a video about this, but basically, when you create a variable, you create a water source, essentially. So here's my water source. This is the new variable. And the water is just trickling down in the function. So like, this is the main function right here. But then I can call another function. So like, for example, this will be calculate, whatever I call this function. And so if I put this variable in this function, the water gets redirected into this function. So then I cannot use this water supply after redirecting it. And this prevents memory leaks and race conditions and stuff and whatnot. But, okay, cool, lols. I won't join just because calling issues on a stream, but if I make a reference, so like if this function instead takes, I don't actually know how to draw the reference sign, so I'll just do okay, good enough. So, let's see if I can fix this. So if this function takes a reference to my water stream, then it only takes a reference. So this water stream is free to flow and be used more. That's essentially the borrow checker. Another thing is, so if I draw another function, this is my new main function, I guess, I can make a water source. And you can have, so you can read a variable immutably. So you can, how do I explain this? Basically, like, a variable can be accessed immutably infinite amount of times until like the scope ends and the variable dies, but you can only access it once mutably. So like I can read from the stream as many times as I want, but I can only write to the stream once, if that makes sense. So the borrow checker in Rust, it's different from other languages, but that's what makes it hard, is it's just different. It's not necessarily hard if you come from a different language like Python, which is where I'm coming from. I will have a purple cube. Yeah, Rust doesn't allow you to do unpredictable things. Now, don't get me wrong, Rust is not limited. Rust is not limited. There are things that Rust allows you, even in the like Rust gives you, even in the standard library, to quote unquote break these rules. Like, for example, I can show you. So if I go into coding Rust, my testing project, I go into my main file, I can create a new variable. So let mute number. This will be of type I32, and I'll specify it because why not? And I can change this variable. So, like, for example, number equals 6. And don't get, I just want to make it clear, I can do something like this. This is completely possible. But if I want to, for example, spawn a new thread, so std thread, thread spawn, I'm going to move, so I'm moving the water stream into this thread. So then I can do something like this. Number equals 8. So what this is going to do, this is not gonna, Rust does not like this. Rust does not like it when you do something like this. So if I try and run the program, wait, okay. Wait, so, okay, you can write to this variable, but I don't think you can read it. I think that's what it is. Huh, now I'm starting to confuse myself. Holy crap. Okay, I think I know what this is. So this is creating a new variable or something. Because this doesn't feel... Yeah, so this doesn't feel right. I think this is literally create... Yeah, so I guess when spawning a new thread, you create a new scope with a new variable, and when that scope ends, you go back to this variable. So that's another thing, is if you create... so like if I create number... I32 5, for example, I can print this out, and I can print it out like this, you know, and this will print out 5. Oop. This will print out 5. But I can do something like this. I can create a new scope, and I can do let number I32 equals 8. And I can print ln number. Now, if this is not in its own scope, what's going to happen is I'm going to get 2 8s in the terminal. Yeah, you learn something new every day. It's always super fun. But so if I put this in a new scope, like this with curly braces, you're gonna see 8, and then you're gonna see 5, like this. The Rust borrow checker can be a little odd, but it's there for a reason, and honestly, once you understand it, it's actually a blessing. Also, Rust's error messages, if you mess something up, chances are Rust will literally tell you how to fix it, which is also really nice. Okay, I've got a cube that's gonna spawn. I'm also gonna import. I'm also gonna insert ambient light so that the scene isn't dark. Ambient light. Color, I think. RGB. Yeah, that's one of the things that bothered me. NixOS's configuration error messages were just horrible. Absolutely horrible. That's why we need more Rust programmers making programming languages. because they've experienced the magic of Rust's error messages. But, like, yeah. Another programming language I kind of want to try is Nim. I mean Zig. Nim is a weird language. It's a white space language. I'm not doing it. But Zig sounds like a really cool language that I want to try. Yeah. The one thing I'm scared about Zig is it's apparently more low level than C. Yeah, Zig, the cool thing I found, like, the thing that finally lit it up for me, like, oh, I want to try this, is, it has its own C compiler, it has its own replacement to LLVM, it has its own linker, so, like, it has its own implementations of basically everything, so it can do something crazy, like, for example, be the first ever compiler to support macOS on the M1 and M2, for example, which is super cool. Alright, so when I run the game, I should see a purple cube. So I'm going to cargo run dash f bdl cargo run dash dash bin dash fb client dash fbdl dash 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 deb. No, de. Yeah. Yeah, it's because LLVM is a giant project, whereas like Zig's LLVM replacement apparently compiles in like 20 seconds, which is nuts. Oh, you know why the cube is not spawning? Because I never added this as a function. I mean, as a system. So I gotta go down to where I'm spawning my camera. Yeah, they're gonna do it later, I guess. Spawn random shit. There we go. Now I can run this and cargo run bin I'm actually gonna switch to no, I won't. Cargo run dash dash bin client dash fbdl dash 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 de. So now if I run this, here we go. It looks like a square, but if I go into editor mode, oh, it's a cube. A very pretty cube at that too. I added some color in the green channel so it's not so dark. This is what it looks like with no ambient light. But yeah, I've got a cube. And I can also like open window inspector. No, that's not what I want. Open window assets. No, that's not what I want. Open window hierarchy. Yeah, that's what I want. So I can click on this and I can go to inspector and I can drag this out and I can do something. Yeah. There's actually a Rust crate called Miette, which I want to check out when I when I'm like creating error messages for my programming language. Apparently makes it really easy to make pretty programming languages. New Shell uses it for its for its errors. Miette. So this, so like you can do something like this. Though it's a little intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I'm gonna transform. Rotation. Yeah, rotating. Ooh, speed. Rotation. Oh, Bevy is so much fun. Yeah. Okay. What is a white space language? It's Python's a good example. So, a non-white space language is something like Rust. So, like, for example, if I'm creating a new function, function main, I put these curly brackets to specify a new scope. So, like, I could do something like this, where, and also I can set the language to Rust. I can do something like this, or I can do something wacky like this. Non-white space languages like Rust also use semicolons to denote a new line. So, like, I can also format my code as a donut. That's how, like, you know, the donut.c thing. But a white space language it does something like this. So, like, just making up as if Rust was a white space language, it would do something like this, where tabbing actually is how you specify, like, hey, this is a new scope. Yeah, indentation. So, like, if the language behavior changes depending on where you have indentation, that would be a white space language. Yeah. So, like, in Python, if you wanted to format your code as a donut, it'd be way harder. It can be done. I've seen it done before, but it is way harder. Also, I kind of need to think about how I want to properly implement Megato. So, what if I play Minecraft? Anyone? Or, wait. Let's see. I don't really want to play any... I have Super Tux on here. Yeah, that's been done before. There was a YouTube video I saw where it's some guy made donut.py, but it's formatted as a donut. Yeah, I can do Minecraft in a little bit too. Super Tux though is a classic. Did you know Super Tux, like this, is actually from 2003? It's an old game. I thought that was super cool when I found out about that. Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to know about it? Oh, I just died. Yeah, what do you want to know about my Hyperland race? Right now I'm using Gruvbox, like the color scheme, but I also have theme changing, so, this is my default, like, this is what the rice comes with by default, but I have some other themes. Like, for example, if I want to work in Solarized, like I'm feeling extra good about myself and I just want to do some programming with the Solarized theme, here's Solarized. I have a Rose Pine on here. I have, what else do I have? And I actually made all the wallpapers for these in Blender. Blender's amazing. I have Capuchin which personally, I'm actually not really a Capuchin person. I'm not a big fan of it. I also... Yeah, Solarized, I feel like it's kind of an ironic theme. Like, people say they hate it, but deep down they actually love Solarized. I also have a color scheme I created called Silk. The Silk color scheme. And if you guys want to check this out, I actually have it on GitLab. Silk color scheme. I actually don't have Tokyo Night yet, but I am planning on adding it. Yeah, Hyperland is amazing. Guys, if you are not on Wayland yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wayland is absolutely ready. You can stream on Discord with Wayland. You can use, there is a Discord client called Discord Screen Audio or something like that. Vim Joyer made a video about it. A friend of mine, you should subscribe to him. Well, we became friends through YouTube, but he made a video about Discord Screen Audio client, and it allows you to share your screen audio in it as well, and it actually works better on Wayland. I haven't really heard of X-Wayland Video Bridge, though, other than it's a KDE thing. Did I get... Yeah, I used to use i3. Call me crazy, but I hate i3. Like, i3 just... The configuration language is horrible. Hyperland honestly has one of the best languages for configuration I've ever used. Except BSPWM. That just uses shell scripting, which is freaking awesome. Yeah, you can play Roblox on Linux. It's not official, but you can do it. You use a third-party client called Grape Juice. And it does some cool stuff, like, for example, you can use Vulkan rendering and stuff. Yeah, Grape Juice. You can get Roblox as a flat pack? I did not know you could get Roblox as a flat pack. I personally don't play Roblox. My brother plays a ton of Roblox. I think it's cringy, but yeah, each to their own. Grape Juice flat pack. Yeah, I think I can see how it'd work better, considering you don't have to worry about like wine installation and stuff. I think Flatpak, regardless what people say, Flatpak is honestly innovation. Flatpak is something Linux absolutely needed. It just makes installations so much easier. My CPU, you guys want a fast fetch? My computer, I have, so OS, Endeavor OS, I've got a newer kernel, packages, new shell. My display is 1920 by 1080 at 165 hertz. It's an external display because I'm on a desktop right now. Yeah, you're crazy. Flatpak is actually amazing. That's my GDK theme, my Papyrus, my icon theme, font, cursor theme, terminal emulator, JetBrains Mono, font, terminal font, CPU. So my CPU is an AMD Ryzen 9 5900X, 24 cores at 4.9 gigahertz. Yeah, and also, like, I'm able to use Hyperland really well because I'm actually on an AMD GPU. AMD Radeon RX 6900 XT. Nice. And then I've got 128 gigs of RAM. What makes EndeavorOS better than just using Arch? My opinion on EndeavorOS, it's not a full-blown, completely different distribution. It's basically Arch, but with all the hard stuff and tedious stuff done for you. So it has calamaris, it has all the patches and tools and stuff done for you. It's easy to fix, like when I have weird Pac-Man issues. I like EndeavorOS. Yes, NVIDIA insists on Wayland compositors implementing NVIDIA-specific protocols instead of the generic protocols. So if you want your compositor to work on NVIDIA, you have to do extra work. Now, there is a package on the AUR called Hyperland-NVIDIA, and it allows you to use Hyperland on NVIDIA, and I've heard it's actually pretty good. Sometimes you use NVIDIA. Yeah, I mean, also, AMD, like, yeah, I think EndeavorOS is better than Arch, just, like, because I think when people call EndeavorOS pointless, I think they're coming from a weird angle. EndeavorOS is not trying to be its own thing, from what I'm seeing. It's just trying to be an extension of Arch. Like, Garuda Linux is its own thing. It's an Arch-based distribution, but it actually tries to be its own thing, whereas EndeavorOS is just Arch with a few tweaks, and I like that. It's nice and simple. I like the containerized thing. Like, for example, all my configs for Flatpak apps are just in var app, whereas, like, when they're not Flatpaks, I have to guess where the config is and stuff. My build cost, are you ready for this? In all total, probably like $3,000. And I actually paid for it myself. Like, I paid for it. It's my own money. So it was very expensive. But it's worth it. It's definitely very worth it. I wanted to get a really, really powerful PC, so I wouldn't have to upgrade for a long time. So if you ask me, do I regret spending so much on a PC? I will say no. Yeah, Flatpaks are way easier because they're containerized, so like they have their own dependencies and stuff. Hey, if you guys want a list of free and open source games to play, I actually have a video on my channel about it. AI without NVIDIA. Personally, I don't really follow that stuff. Apparently NVIDIA has things in place to make AI just smooth on their system. But the most in AI I'm delving is just making neural networks. That part's interesting to me, but the whole like corporate AI thing is not really that interesting to me. Yeah, like, NVIDIA, I think, has something called a TPU, a tensor processing component, or whatever, computer tensor processing unit. So you have your CPU, which is like the generic, it's just like for your computer, and then you have your GPU, which is specialized for a lot of very simple math in parallel. And then you have the tensor processing unit, which is specialized for like doing mathematical operations on multi-dimensional arrays, basically. Like, You know, it's funny. I tell people who are not very experienced in computers that GPUs are basically CPUs with more cores that can do less work, and their mind is blown that it's not a separate part. Well, it is a separate part, but it's very similar to a CPU, just very specialized. Like, the only difference between a GPU and a CPU is that a GPU is just a CPU, but it has more cores, and those cores can do less complicated of mathematical tasks. But they can do a ton of them in parallel. I have been using Linux for around 3 years now, and I have not looked back. So I used to dual boot Linux a lot. So I used to dual boot Linux, but then I noticed I was never booting into Windows, so I was just like, hey, why do I have Windows on the system? So I just installed I just said, hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna install Linux, and here I am. Never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. If I didn't use Linux, I'd probably lose my passion as a programmer. 'Cause, yeah. That guy, 1211, honestly, no. Really, the only real pain points on Linux, I would say, nowadays, I would really just say the only pain points are Adobe Photoshop and Microsoft Office. Ah, that makes sense if it's from Google. I remember they were like announcing the new the new Google Pixel, and they were just like AI, 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 AI. Like, I remember seeing a video where it was the Pixel 8 announcement or whatever it is, but every time they say AI, and the video was like 8 minutes long, and it was just it was cut until they said AI. So it was just them saying AI, 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 artificial intelligence, AI, AI, for 8 minutes straight. That should tell you how invested Google is into the whole AI thing. So I'm going to change my theme back to this. Dang it. Huh. Bard. Yeah, I don't really follow the AI stuff again. Like, really, the only recent AI news I really know of is the whole thing between, like, Elon Musk and OpenAI, how OpenAI used to be an open source thing, and now they're, like, an open source nonprofit, and now they're a proprietary for-profit, and Elon Musk, like, stepped down as CEO and whatnot. That's really the only stuff I follow, and it was just because Mental Outlaw made a video about it. I think it was Mental Outlaw. It could have been someone else, but thank you for the heart, whoever that was. Give me your heart. Nah, don't kill yourself. Don't. Oh god. I really hope YouTube doesn't get the wrong idea from what I just said. Yeah, Rust is a really nice language. Honestly, if I were you, I'd just stop learning C and I would learn Rust. I remember programming in C and I was just like, wow, C is very loose. It doesn't feel great. Like, I like the fact that Rust makes you declare a main function and it makes you make your code memory safe, whereas C, it feels like I'm gonna blow something up just from ignorance. why would you want to learn C++? Like, some of us can agree that C... Yeah, Rust's borrow checker can take a little bit to grab a hold of, but once you do, it's amazing. And again, it's really not that hard to understand it. You just have to let go of your previous understanding of programming languages, how they manage memory. But, like, if you come from a language like Python, which doesn't make you know the inner workings of memory management, it's actually quite easy to learn how the borrow checker works. That's why, like, some people recommend learning C before Rust, whereas I actually discourage it, because it gives you the wrong idea. Yeah, I mean, coming from an interpreted language to a compiled language is gonna always be hard, but it's a lot easier when you don't know anything about memory management. Yeah, C is too simple. That's my problem with C, is it's too simple and it's too relaxed. Like, I would love to see an animated video where it's like C and Rust being babysitters for a day. And like C is just on her phone, doesn't give a crap what the baby does, gives the baby alcohol and stuff, and then Rust, like, the baby tries to crawl on the couch and Rust keeps the baby on the ground. Like, I would love to see an animated video like that. I think that'd be pretty funny. Also, I will say that, I will also say that, C, it's easy to shoot yourself in the foot with C. C++, it's harder, but you blow your entire leg off. And then Rust, it's really, like, it's really hard. It's impossible to shoot yourself with Rust unless you literally tell Rust, like, hey, I want to shoot myself. But when you do tell Rust to, it can be more dangerous than something like C. Yes, Josh, this isn't a Gen 2 install stream. So, I guess you'll have to live with it. I know Bash, which is a scripting language, but I know Bash, I know Python, I know Rust, I know some C. I tried learning it. I know, like, how to do Hello World in C++. I know some Lua. I know a handful of languages, like just little tidbits. I also was learning the R programming language because my math tutor was teaching me math via the R programming language, which was super cool. Rust is different, but once you basically have to tell yourself, hey, Rust, it's different. So you kind of have to relearn some things about programming, but once you do, Rust is honestly not that hard. No, I would not recommend Go ever. It's, personally, I haven't tried Go, but the reasons I wouldn't recommend it is it's a Google thing, it's made by Ken Thompson, who created C, so it has a lot of C problems in there, and it also apparently is really boring. Like, Go and Rust are also complete rivals. So there's that too. Just learn Rust. Go also doesn't have as rich of an ecosystem. Like, for example, when I was working on Megatoe, which is that game I was working on just now, I was using the Bevy engine, which is a Rust crate, and it's an entire game engine built in Rust. Yeah, I use Paru. And actually, I don't use Paru just because it's a Rust thing versus a Go thing. I actually use Paru because it does a thing where it makes you read the package build before you actually install the AUR package, so it's actually safer. So, yeah. Yeah. Go strikes me as something that wouldn't be good for game dev. Yeah, but, like, are there any game engines that are actually written in Go? No. They're all in Rust. Like, Piston Engine, Amethyst Engine, GG Easy, Bevy. Those are all Rust engines. Also, Rust is just the kind of thing where it's perfect for game development, because you have enums, you have structs, and they're, like, way better than in other programming languages. You have macros. It just doesn't strike me as something that has... Rust... Go... From what I hear, Go is also kind of a primitive language. C++ is just a complete mistake. Oh, frick. No. Go is a systems programming language. It's compiled. C++ is very much used in game dev, yes, but I think that should change, because C++ is very subject to memory leaks and all the problems. Also, like, from what I hear, any libraries for C++ are usually very hard to use. Hey, man, I don't like C++. In fact, I hate its guts. Header files? You kidding me? How the hell do I use header files? Most confusing thing ever. Yeah, you could. You could get memory leaks in Rust, but it's very hard. The only way I can really think to get a memory leak in safe Rust is if you have a cycling reference situation where, like, you have an RC pointer pointing to another RC pointer where that RC pointer points back at that RC pointer so they never get dropped. Because the way Rust drops variables is once nothing references that variable, it can be dropped. When you have two pointers pointing at each other, they never get dropped, so it causes a memory leak. Though this is very simple to fix. It's you can use weak pointers, which basically don't care if something is pointing to it. It will still deallocate. So you can create cycles as much as you want, as long as one of the pointers or all the pointers are weak pointers. Also, Rust makes multi-threading unbelievably easy. Like, let me show you this. If I go back into my testing project, I think I have Rayon. Apparently not. So if I cargo add Rayon, I can make parallel loops. So if I go to my main function, Super Tux, the best platformer game I have ever played, other than Crash Bandicoot remake. Yeah, that's often a trend. Anything built in Rust and Rust itself often have really nice user interfaces. Like, for example, the clap framework for creating command line applications lets you generate a command list thing, and it's really nice. There's also the colored crate where, like, you can make a red string just by doing, like, string.red. So, it's really good. If I import the Rayon prelude. So, in Rust, you can spawn a new thread. So, if I do std thread spawn, I can do a closure, and I can do something like this. Print ln, and I'll create a new variable in this thread. So let mut I equals usize, and I will say 0. So I can do something like this. You'll see where this is going in a second. Other thread I plus equals 1. So Helix is a text editor. Helix is really nice, but it does have different keybinds. Honestly, I think Helix's keybinds make more sense. It's a little like Rust. It's better, but it's hard to learn because you're used to something inferior, but you're used to something. So like, for example, Vim has really weird keybinds, but you get used to it eventually, so it doesn't really bother you. Helix has keybinds that actually make sense, but you kind of have to relearn keybinds. Emacs seems cool too, but I'm just not big brain enough for it. Also, I don't want to spend a ton of time customizing my text editor. But like, for example, in Vim, if you want to yank a character, you just do Y. To yank a line in Vim, you do YY. But in Helix, you select a line with X and then Y, and that yanks your selection. So it just makes a lot more sense. Let mut I usize loop print ln main thread I plus equals 1. So in this code, I've got 2 threads running. I'm spawning a new thread with std thread spawn. Maybe. I don't really know how, Josh. Yeah, actually there are Lua bindings for Rust, but I don't understand why Rust uses why the Helix developer is choosing to use a Lisp-like language. Maybe you can do I++, but personally I like I plus equals 1. I think it just makes more sense, personally. It's more declarative, I guess. So I've got 2 threads here. So now if I run this code, you can see that both the threads are running in parallel. So, and this is completely thread safe. Rust makes it super easy. Now I can use Rayon, and so to make a standard for loop in Rust, you do something like this. So I'm going to print ln, I'm going to print I. Yeah, Rust threads is amazing. So this is a standard Rust for loop, and it finished almost instantly because, of course, it's Rust. I can actually make it take a little while to do its thing by adding more numbers. So now if I run this, it's going to run for a little bit. What do you mean by *********? Oh, semicolons? I like semicolons because without semicolons it becomes a white space language. And with semicolons you can just format your code more freely. So like I could format my code as a donut and it'd be fine. Yeah, I understand now. Yeah, what? YouTube is horrible. Like, comments replying, it's not structured very well, stuff like that. Now, to use Rayon to parallelize this loop, I can do into par iter, and I can do for each, and I basically make a new closure. And now this is a parallel loop. Do you see how easy that was to make this loop parallel? So now this loop will run on multiple threads. And it was this easy. So like once this loop ends, you can see like the numbers are not in order because they're being printed on separate threads. So that's how easy it is to multi-thread stuff. Basically, so there's the default iter data type in Rust, and then Rayon adds its own par iter data type. And into par iter just turns your range, instead of turning it into an iter, because there is the into iter method, which will turn your range into an iterator that you can use in a for loop. There is Rayon adds the into par iter method, which turns it into a parallel iterator that Rayon can understand, and then you can use that to make your loop parallelized with the for each method, since the parallel iterator does not directly support the for I in syntax. So it's actually quite simple. Rust is really nice because everything is data type oriented. So if you do something, you're basically using Rust's own structs and enum system. So, like for example, when you make a function that can spit out an error, you literally use an enum called result. So you could create your own result alternative. I have been programming for about 4 years, almost 5 years. That's about as long as I've been using a computer too. I've been using Linux though for only like 2 to 3 years. Actually, so my game, Simplay Survival, which is like the Minecraft-like game I'm making, here's the chat when I was adding random rotations to block faces. In the old pictures and videos archive, this is where like I post all the screenshots and stuff for archiving. I think Cocoon is a lazy text editor. It's written in C++, and it relies so much on bash utilities. Like, if you want to sort the text in your text editor, you have to pipe it to the sort command. I don't really know, and I don't really care. He had my credentials. I guess he just wanted to cause trouble, but, yeah. I think it's because I wasn't friends with him anymore. But if I scroll back through my archive, you can see alright, I have to stop soon. If I scroll back through my archive, you can see here it is. Here's a screenshot of me developing the game in Python, of all things, on Windows. And of course, I'm like the typical Windows user. I've got Unity, Core, CCleaner, Salad, Visual Studio, Notepad, Minecraft, Python, all in my taskbar. It's disgusting. Now I'm on Linux and I'm a pure boy. I'm a pure. Don't make that mistake anymore. Yeah, come to Linux. You'll enjoy it. I know. Yeah. Okay. Comments. What do you mean you missed the stream? It's going right now. I know. Honestly, not that long. I just, if you go into Helix, so HX, just type in tutor, and it brings up the Helix tutor, and it's just like Vim tutor. It teaches you the basics and stuff. Alright, I gotta finish up the Super Tux level so I can turn off. Yeah, terminal text editors. I'm not a VS Code soy boy. Yeah. Here, I can send you guys the link. No, VS Code is horrible. I don't care what you say. VS Code is horrible. It's for soy devs. Yeah, the whole idea of an Electron-based text editor is just disgusting. Yeah. Like, a text editor is not something that should be built in Electron. That's like packaging a terminal... That's like packaging a terminal emulator as a flat pack. It just shouldn't be done. I recommend Helix. Helix makes it super easy to edit in the terminal, because it also, it has a command menu, so, like, you can just look through here. Honestly, terminal text editing is not that hard. The only things you really have to know is the I key puts you in insert mode, and you can get out of it with escape. Command mode is the colon. And to quit the text editor, to quit the text editor, it's just :Q. If you want to write the file, then it's :WQ. Yeah, the Windows terminal is frickin' horrible. I'm tired. I'm not gonna, especially when I have to start finishing up, I'm not gonna program, because I might hit an unexpected issue. So I'm going to play some Super Tux Kart for a little bit, and then I'm just going to get off. Yeah, I program pretty much all day. How do you think I hit the 100 repository limit on Codeberg before I had to start deleting them and moving them to GitLab? Because I program all day. And also, for your information, I am an open source dev. I think it's wrong to develop proprietary software and charge money for it. Yeah, proprietary software is bad. It stifles human innovation and it makes people poor. Right, the developers get money, but like, how shitty is it if you start using an app, you get hooked on it, and then the company is like, hey, stop using the app. Like, hey, you need to pay us $20 a month to continue using this app. How crap would that be? Like, you know Windows is supposedly going to become a subscription service, right? Like, that's just... No, I'm not going to pay for something... No. Also, like, supporting proprietary technologies, you're basically making it so the only people who can use those technologies are the people who made them, which is literally the definition of stifling human innovation. Like, it's... The proprietary software... Yeah, I use alternatives. Proprietary software is short-term gratification. Open source software is long-term gratification. Proprietary software, if the company goes down, the technology goes down with it. Open source stuff, it can never die. So, like, for example, why are we able to emulate N64 games relatively easily? It's because Nintendo released the development software kit. I don't care. I would much rather live on donations and help human innovation than stifle human innovation for my own benefit. People who stifle human... Like, that's just selfish. Stifling human innovation just for your own benefits. The only proprietary software I really use these days is Steam, Discord, and maybe occasionally Spotify if I want to listen to a podcast. I guess it's human nature to be selfish, but I choose to be as least selfish as I can. What? Oh, Android. Well, actually, I'm a bit of a weird case. I hate iOS, I hate Android. Give me a Linux phone and I'll finally be happy. That's my take. Yeah, there's a phone called the Pine phone. There are two reasons though I don't have it yet, and that is, one, it's $400, and Android is a fork of Linux, but you can't call it Linux at this point. It's basically corporate Frankenstein Linux. Like, it's stock full of just proprietary crap, and it's so heavily modified at this point that I wouldn't call it Linux. In fact, like, that's like calling macOS BSD. macOS is based off BSD, but BSD and macOS are so far from each other at this point, they're not the same operating system. Yeah, those are still Linux, because, like, yeah, Android doesn't have a user account. Android also doesn't use Xorg or Wayland. They use their own display technology. The Android kernel is heavily modified. Like, the same devices that can boot Linux cannot boot Android, and vice versa. So it's just not... Android is really not Linux. And also, like, even if it was, Android is very corporate, very Googleized. I am not using that crap. Also, like, I want to create my own applications in GTK. I don't want to create my own applications in whatever proprietary thing Android uses. So, yeah. I want a Linux phone. I think it'd be super cool. Alright, after this level, I think I'm gonna stop the stream. Oh. Yeah, this level's pretty much over. Maybe I'll do one more level, since this is already over. I'm thinking 9:30 I'll stop the stream. So I gotta finish up this level as fast as I can. Okay. Streamer just got silent. Have you guys ever heard of the show Slippin' Jimmy? It's an animated spin-off of like the whole Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul thing, made by like the same guys and whatnot, but it's utterly horrible. It's flat, it's made for cartoons, but it feels so childish. I mean, it's made for adults, but it feels childish. It's just not, like, it's the definition of a show that was made for like no audience. Like there's literally no one who'd want to watch it. Because it feels like it's made for kids, but it has inappropriate themes, that kind of thing. GitLab is free. Basically, all Git hosting sites are free. Even GitHub, which is hosted by Microsoft. They're all free. Now, GitHub is proprietary. The software running it is proprietary. GitLab, you can self-host a GitLab instance because GitLab itself is actually open source. That's why I use GitLab, and I only use GitHub for very selective things. Like, for example, my website, which runs on GitHub pages, which I should try and migrate to GitLab pages. My favorite part in Super Tux is when he gets to the forest levels. Ooh, is this secret? Nope. How about this one? Nope. Oh, cool. Okay. Actually, just in time, too. It's about to be 9:30. Alright. This was a good stream. Thank you, guys. I will see you all next time. I gotta get off now. But I will see you all next time. So, bye-bye. Have a good night, good day, wherever, like, whatever time it is for you. Have a good time. Alright, I'll see you all. Bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.